Hey you guys, it's Dustin. So, this past week was my birthday. So, as a treat to myself, I want to talk about one of my favorite American authors, F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, a lot of my students often have to read the Great Gatsby, which is exactly what it is. It's great, it's amazing, it displays Fitzgerald's ability to show the type of decadent parties that became his signature in the Lost Generation, I mean, the generation in the modern early 1900s that kind of showed what they perceived as problems with society and things like that. Fitzgerald is focused on the decadent New England for a lot of that. And Gatsby is an amazing novel. But I want to focus on one of his lesser-known works, and it's from his. I actually like his short stories better than Gatsby. And it's from his short story book, Flappers and Philosophers, and it's called Bernice Bobs Her Hair. And this is my favorite short story. So, Dustin, why is your favorite short story the petty quarrel between two young girls? Well, because it shows Fitzgerald's ability to concretize one of the big issues of the day, which was the shift from the old femininity to the new femininity of the modern 20th century. So now, he tells us from the beginning, the title itself, Bernice Bobs Her Hair. He tells us the ending in the title, besides the really catchy BBHH. All right, Bernice Bobs Her Hair. It's so well done, even in the title choice. But whenever an author gives us away the ending at the beginning, the question becomes not what happens, but how does it happen, and why is that important? And this short story, it actually accomplishes what a story, whether short or long, should. It concretizes the issue. Like I said earlier, it puts into physical forms what might take an essay elsewhere. But we don't want to read an essay. We don't want to read the philosophy behind it. Although Flappers and Philosophers, which is an ironic title, we want to see it happen. We want to see it dramatized. And there's nothing more dramatic than teenage girls. So it opens, and it's a great opening. It's like as close to a zooming in of a camera as you can get. And it zooms in on a Saturday night to this country club, and then it shows these old dowagers up on the second story looking down. You can imagine their spectacles looking down on the teenagers below. And if you don't pay attention to when they dance, when the younger set dances in the summertime, it is with the very worst intentions in the world. And if they are not bombarded with stony eyes, stray couples will dance weird barbaric interludes in the corners, and the more popular, more dangerous girls will sometimes be kissed in the parking lot, in the parked limousines of unsuspecting dowagers, the old women that are looking at them. So right from the beginning, we get the perspective of the older femininity, the older women in society, which they're mentioned throughout this short story. Those who would have been who held the morals of Little Women, which is a fabulous book. I mean, I actually teach this short story as the third portion of a three-part lesson on the development of femininity in American society. I start with Little Women, which itself is kind of a rethinking. All right, it's not all just Mrs. March. It's about Joe who's trying to leave that. So there's tension in that, and she finds her way of doing the marriage. Her version of marriage, which is not the same as her other sisters. And then you have The Awakening by Kate Chopin. I often do short stories of Kate Chopin. My tutoring students often have books of their own that they have to read. But those start to break up some of the from Chopin's perspective, women needed a little bit more. That's why it's important. Anyway, you know what? I'm not getting off topic. Maybe that's for another. I'll save that for another one. And then you have Fitzgerald. This story. What does it look like? This and as well as Daisy and other characters in his other works. What does it look like to have accomplished the new woman, the new femininity? And so we get that. He introduces it from these old women's perspective. But then we get to see Fitzgerald, the master at showing us the party, or the interplay. Let's just read what he says. But after all, this critical circle, the women, is not close enough to the stage to see the actors' faces and catch the subtler byplay. It can only frown and lean, asking questions and making satisfactory deductions from its set of postulates, such as the one which states that every young man with a large income leads the life of a hunted partridge. It's kind of a parody of Jane Austen's opening to Pride and Prejudice. By parodying it, it's like, you know what, we're going to start questioning that right from the beginning. Maybe, all right? Maybe. We don't know. Fitzgerald himself is not. This isn't a sermon in the form of like, oh, those old women. Anyway, but he's introducing the drama here, and he goes in to talk about these like late high schoolers and college students dancing, and then we start to see the drama between the guys kind of preferring Marjorie, and yet they're kind of like all waiting. For some, or there's one of them. I think it's is it Otis? Yeah, Otis Ormond is waiting. It might be, I forgot, but he's waiting for someone to relieve him from dancing with Marjorie's cousin Bernice, who is, I mean, right from the beginning, she kind of because you're not allowed to, gentlemen, you're not allowed to leave a girl on the dance floor. You have to be relieved by another guy. Right from the beginning, Bernice is she's visiting Marjorie. It's another one of Fitzgerald's classic like characters of showing us a character from the Midwest coming to visit the high flying East Coast, Northeast, and she's dull. All right, she's boring. She talks about the weather when one of their Warren. When Warren, who's Marjorie's main guy, sits down and she starts talking about the weather, and then he kind of flirts with her, and she takes it seriously and just like calls him fresh, and he's just like, God, I hate babysitting. Anyway, so then Marjorie, like in the next scene, Marjorie starts complaining to her mom about, oh, she's so boring, Bernice. Why did you have to have her come visit? Bernice overhears it and expects Marjorie to be sentimental, and when she's like, I'm sorry, or you hurt my feelings, stuff, and Marjorie's like, whatever. All right, who cares if I hurt your feelings? Like, you want me to be sentimental too? And Marjorie, when she's kind of not playing into the type of femininity that Bernice is expecting her to be, which is the 19th century version, Marjorie says, oh my lord, cried Marjorie in desperation, you little nut. Girls like you are responsible for all the tiresome, colorless marriages, all those ghastly inefficiencies that pass as feminine qualities. What a blow it must be when a man with imagination marries the beautiful bundle of clothes that he's been building ideals around, and finds that she's just a weak, whining, cowardly mass of affectations. So this is Marjorie, who really is embodying the new woman. This is the perspective on the old woman. Like, you're just pretending to be feminine, and there's no solid ground to it. Now, you could argue, I don't know that Fitzgerald is on Marjorie's side with things, because you can argue that, okay, Marjorie's answer is to be masculine. I mean, she's popular because she did a cartwheel, and she's offensive in intentionally offensive and stuff. And we get to see some of and that's part of why we see that when she refuses to play the 19th century version of femininity, when like being sentimental with when Bernice like starts, you hurt my feelings. Marjorie's like, so anyway, so it moves on, and she starts training. They agree to. Marjorie starts teaching Bernice how to be a good new woman. She starts teaching her how to be get men to dance with her. And it's a really funny play-by-play. Again, you see Fitzgerald as the party, as the cameraman of a party throughout all this, and the drama that's in that. However, there's one issue. Bernice is attractive. Even Marjorie admits it. She says, when I think of that gorgeous coloring wasted on such a ninny, and think what Martha Carey could do with it, oh. So Marjorie admits that, and there's other times that it admits, that other characters admit, like even Warren is like, you know what, under different circumstances, she'd be good to look at. Yeah, like and it talks about her having gorgeous hair. You start to see the danger of the title coming. Anyway, but Marjorie teaches Bernice how to attract guys, and the ironic thing, or it's ironic for her, Bernice starts to become more popular. Nay, she starts to become more popular than Marjorie. So, and then that arises a whole other monster in Marjorie, because we start to see that Marjorie's her own set of affectations are actually a cover for, I don't know, I mean, she's not unattractive. It never describes her. It just focuses on Bernice being like, ooh, she's really attractive. Anyway, I mean, and as promised by the title, it does move towards the bobbing of Bernice's hair, the cutting off of the traditional concretization, a concrete symbol of femininity. And I'm not going to spoil it by reading any part of it, but this is not simply a sermon about, oh yeah, you should become a new woman, because there's also a lot of it that is, we've gained, women gain a lot as these characters, but they also, it makes us question whether they lost a lot, or at least the story does, and we see that concretized by the literal losing of hair by Bernice. Again, I'm not spoiling that, he spoils it, but with the title. But it becomes something much more than just a teenage, like just the mundanity of the title, like, oh, Bernice Bobs Her Hair. And even the bob itself was a symbol of the new woman. And so, but this is Fitzgerald, we get to see in this story, Fitzgerald thinking that over and considering, okay, what it's a real shift that's happened in society by that time. All right, readers of Gatsby, this is the same thing that's in Daisy. All right, in many different ways, or in Jordan Baker. Whew. Anyway, but here we get to see it zoomed down at the petty level of 16-year-old girls, and yet the issue is still this important. All right, who is going to think about, the great issue or one of the great issues of the time, the old woman versus the new woman? You'd think that would be seen in the suffragettes, although most of the suffragettes were decidedly old feminine, old version of femininity. But you'd think the big stories. No, he's like this little summer holiday of this cousin visiting her other cousin, concretizes and encapsulates the drama of one of the big issues of the day. That I find that fabulous. I find that one of the reasons why Fitzgerald is one of my favorite authors. I mean, not everything is this level, all right? I mean, which makes sense. A lot of his short stories, they were not about, let me create and concretize a great thing. It was about, let me make something fun to read so I can get more money for whiskey, so Zelda and I can keep having our crazy parties, all right? That's also why I like his short stories more than some of his novels. I mean, because they're just so wacko, and there's just a lot of fun, and yet he has such an eye for drama, for showing it, for like how to get us in the middle of drama with a great balance between the action and the clever narration. Other short stories that you guys might like are Head and Shoulders. Oh God, it's hysterical. And so, let's see. What are some other ones? Yeah, Head and Shoulders, Bernice, of course. The Four Fists is really really funny. There's the movie of Curious Case of Benjamin Button. He's the one who made that story. And the Diamond as Big as the Wrist sounds okay. But he's just so good at these tight little stories that do get to higher things than a lot that I've read. I mean, yeah. And so, but of course, I mean, Bernice Bobs Her Hair stands above all of them, so I recommend it to all my students. I usually make them read it, but I recommend it to all of you guys if you want to see what a short story can do. And I've read again. It's one of those things that the more I read it, the more I see. And it's also it's a lot easier and simpler than Gatsby, but it deals with a lot of the same level of stuff. What is shifting in the 20th century, and that's Fitzgerald's role in or his his membership card, I guess, in the Lost Generation, of like, hey, things are changing and have changed, and so what do we do with that? And I actually am very thankful that he isn't just simply like, yes, forward kind of thing. He's like, wait a minute, we're getting rid of stuff too with all this newness, and we need to think about that. And so yeah, that's part of why I really love this story. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. Okay, look forward to seeing you guys at the next one. Hey, you guys. So I worried that I just sold Fitzgerald short on the depth of Marjorie and her femininity. So I want to point out that she's just as embedded in the feminine past as Bernice is. The parts that I read are basically, I mean, she doesn't know it, but I think Fitzgerald might have, that the type of man who would be disappointed in the massive affectations of Bernice, that's Mr. Bennet from Pride and Prejudice. It describes him in that way in the book. And then also her argument against all the like just the petty femininities that are just empty. That's Mary Wollstonecraft's arguments about why she didn't talk with sentimentality, and she was in many ways still a complementarian. She believed there was no conflict between a woman's roles and having rights. Right? She just didn't want those complementarian roles to become prohibitive of things. You're all right. I know. All right. She's Marjorie. It's great. Anyway, so, and like I promised, video about girls. I gotta have my little teenager in a 19-year-old's body for this one. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to put that on the end. I didn't want to sell Fitzgerald or Marjorie short in the amount of depth that's in her character. She's just as deep as Bernice, and that's what, again, makes this story so amazing to me. It doesn't it's not just a sermon about one thing or the other. There's nuance in every direction of it. So anyway, talk to you guys later.